Trevor Long, welcome to 2020 Revision.
Thanks for having me, Ralph.
No problem. Now, you're a technology commentator and the editor of EFTM.com.
That's my job. That's what I like to say, but really I'm just unemployed and just doing my best. Self-employment is really like unemployment, except you just try and find money every now and then. That's really all it is.
Correct. I know the feeling. Now, take us through your 2020.
Mate, let's start with a downer. I'm not talking coronavirus. It was a pretty rubbish start to the year for me. Kind of personally in terms of friendships and relationships and stuff didn't go great for me at the start of the year, business-wise and personally, which didn't kick us off to a great start of the year, I'll be honest, because it's normally the start of the year is massive for me and for us with CES in Las Vegas in January. It's a huge revenue. It's a huge event. It's a good lot of fun. So kind of didn't go amazingly brilliant for me early in the year. And then the bloody Rona hit. So it was kind of a bit of a double whammy. And then, with coronavirus starting, it was like, is this going to be a problem? And pretty much everyone I deal with, most of the tech companies that are, kind enough to support me in any way, shape or form on EFTM kind of went, whoa, we don't know what's going to happen here. We're assuming everyone's not going to spend money. So we're just going to stop what we're doing. And so there was a bit of panic, but it's kind of weird, mate, that amongst all that, obviously the government, I think, did friggin' amazing things to make sure that small businesses, let alone big businesses, could, keep cracking along. I can't even list the number of little things that happen, whether it was state government, federal government, ATO, JobKeeper, and all those things that kind of came together to just, allow you to get through the year. It's not been amazing, but, get you through. And then obviously there's a travel ban. And mate, I used to do 70 flights a year. I used to be away, I don't remember the last count, but, it was 100 odd nights a year. And so that's a massive change to my lifestyle, let alone my work. And it was weird because both the kind of bad stuff that happened at the start of the year amongst my personal relationships and then the business stuff just meant family became number one. My wife, my kids, number one, the most important thing. And it kind of, when you look back on the whole year, you go, that's been the best part of it all. Like family has come first and you kind of realize how important it is.
Now, having a background in media and obviously being involved in the technology space, you were obviously consuming a lot of the news. And I guess for you, most importantly, was keeping up to date with everything that was happening so you could see what the little, holes were in the market or whatever, or what it was that people needed to stay afloat. So just being across all of that and consuming all of that, was that all a little bit overwhelming to begin with?
I think it was a good distraction, to be honest, to begin with, because I kind of didn't, I kind of operate my business in a way that I've always got a little bit, I'm ready to go in advance a couple of months. I don't need to worry about month to month. It's more quarter to quarter. So I didn't stress about money early on. I left that to the accountant to say, you let me know what I can do when. So let me focus on, work from home. We did so many segments on the radio and the TV about working from home. What do you need? What gear do you need? And all that kind of stuff. Then it went into kind of NBN, and then it went into just, the COVID Safe app. And we kind of had this just constant roller coaster of little tech stories that really didn't just dominate the tech world. It was serious mainstream stuff. And so that for me was a good distraction from the negativity around and allowed me to focus on just doing my job. And, there was a time there where people would say to me, and I get this now and then, it's like, geez, you're bloody everywhere. You're on all the time. And like, I'm not on Channel 9 all the time. I'm on a couple of times a week on the Today Show, and maybe I'll do a 9 News now and then. But I just think that because people were so focused on watching the news and, viewership went up, people noticed that stuff. And the weirdest part was once we went into those kind of mini lockdowns, it was like, well, you can't go here, you can't do that. I made the decision that Stephen Fennick and I, we do a podcast together. We would still get together every week and we would, just socially distance and sanitize, because he's the only person I see outside of my family every week anyway. And then Channel 9 went, you can't come here. And I'm like, well, what? So the techs at Channel 9 were awesome. They helped me set up the whole thing so that I could do it from here. This is my EFTM office. And I did the Today Show from here for 6 months. Literally this week and last week were the first times I've been back to Channel 9 in almost 6 months. Just been doing it here on an iPhone. And it's been awesome. And technology has literally changed the way I do what I do. It's changed the way people work. And if you think about the tech, it's basically been this, if you had a 5-year plan as a tech company, all of that happened in 6 months. It's radical, the way people have uptaken Zoom calls, meetings, working from home. There's no excuse for a boss to say anymore, oh, I don't think you should work from home. We just can't cope. I'm sorry. Yeah, we can.
Yeah, that's been the amazing part. And obviously I'm recording this from my kitchen table and doing it over Zoom, as would happen for 2020. I mean, that has become, I guess, the focal point for most people. They were working from home, so they had to have a makeshift office.
Yep.
They had to set up the kids so that they could have a makeshift classroom. It was just one of those crazy things. Now, from a technology point of view, I guess there was a whole heap of doubt cast upon, well, in a lockdown situation, how is the NBN going to cope? What was your, I guess, assessment of that entire period, given the sheer volume of people that were forced into the unknown for what a lot of people were for quite some time?
Yeah, I was asked very early on when kind of work from home or, stay-at-home orders or whatever you want to call them were put in place, will the NBN cope? Now, I've been a long-term advocate of the NBN once it got past its original woes and dramas because hey, it works for me and it's worked for everyone I talk to. So I was confident. And you got to, unfortunately in our game, you've got to put an opinion out. You got to say, you can't just say, we'll have to wait and see. No one wants to hear that from a, commentator on the radio. So I just went, I think it's been built in such a way that it can cope. And let's be clear, if this happened 5 years ago, let alone 10, chaos, because we wouldn't have been able to do what we did. So the NBN underpins what we were able to do. And I was confident, but it was only a week or two in that NBN were pushing out. So being very proactive, putting out graphs about their data usage and stuff that showed, crazy levels of usage. And yet there's, Skype and Netflix and Stan all kind of pared back their bandwidth usage to help it. But in the end, the NBN coped beautifully with the amount of work from home. I think a lot of people discovered the flaws in their own home setup. So a lot of people have great NBN, but have really crap Wi-Fi. So, that was a solution for a lot of people. And then it was just, the NBN was just a utility, and it really always should be. It should just be a utility. It's just the internet comes into the house, just like power and water do. Then it's just, you want better taps, do you, for your water? You want better light switches. Well, now you want a better computer, you want a different keyboard, you want a better standing work desk or something. That was just where, Officeworks and JB Hi-Fi went, thanks very much. Everyone's upgrading. So I think, unfortunately, we have a very hated mentality towards the NBN. But if we reflect, the NBN was a huge part of Australia getting through this COVID, lockdown.
And if you look at it from, I guess, many people's point of view, when they did have those doubts, and then obviously businesses had to, as we mentioned, force their workers to work from home, and any sort of doubt seemed to dissipate really because of the worry, are they going to be as productive at working from home? Is the setup going to work? And then all of a sudden they're like, wait a minute, we're paying how much money for office space? This is ridiculous. We could be saving like thousands upon thousands because people are becoming more productive from home. And all of a sudden, the CBD, for example, was a ghost town, and now businesses are reassessing everything pretty much.
It's like a balance, isn't it? Because you don't want the place to be a ghost town because you want the businesses that rely on the workers to be supported and to get through. But then traffic, office space, public transport congestion, all these things play together. I really hope that some innovative politicians, let alone just innovative businesses, actually look back on 2020 and don't just talk about the fact that we did this and that with vaccines and stuff, but what did we learn from that period? And that businesses work on, I did a lot of people management when I was at SBS, and you sit down with people every quarter and how are you going at things? Like the conversation should be, where do you feel most productive? On what days do you feel you're least productive at work that you could benefit from being at home? Let's balance that out. Let's stagger people's working hours. So my wife went back to work 4 days a week, Ralph. And, because I'm not traveling for the first time ever, we were able to go, I'll pick the kids up. Oh, that's cool. We get a babysitter 1 day a week because it just gives me an extra day of, full day work. But mate, I pick the kids up 3 days a week. Now, why can't people say to their boss, you know what, mate, I'll be there at 6 so I can check out at, 2:30. I want to go and pick the kids up. It's the most rewarding things to see your kids get off the bus and they run towards, they tell you about their day. Now, any parent knows that it's the first parent that interacts with the child after school that gets the download. Everyone else is just, how was your day? Yeah, it was all right. What did you do? No, I don't remember. You got to be the first parent at the bus stop. So, mate, I really hope that we see some studies done into how positive the impacts of COVID have been on families. At the same time, there needs to be the impact on individuals who may have found themselves more lonely in these periods. And that's, I guess, the bigger concern for managers and people in business, to say that kind of millennial, the younger generation, they may not be coping as well as the parents with kids as with the work from home, because they may need that social interactivity. They may need to have the water cooler talk. They don't like Zoom calls. So we've got to find the balance.
So, in your opinion, are traditional work hours now out the window?
I think they should be, but unfortunately, we've got some pretty rusted on businesses and bosses. So I think that's the challenge for 2021, is to ensure that if we're going to have workplace regulation, it should be not just about pay. It should be about entitlement to the work-life balance. That should be the fundamental underpinning. If you don't perform in your job as a result of you working from home, hell yeah, get back to the office and get your crap in order. But if you are productive, if you're getting a job done, you should be free to work how you want, where you want, when you want. And that freedom hopefully gives people longevity at organizations. So yeah, it should be 9 to 5. Dolly Parton should be singing a new song.
Now, I guess the big thing for people, as you sort of touched on there as well, is the commute. People realised how much time they got back due to the lack of commute. Like for some people, like 3 hours a day, 3.5 hours a day, and then that put into, picking up the kids or putting the time into homeschooling or just doing work from home that was otherwise lost on an extensive commute every day.
And you think a lot of people are highly critical of the amount of extra time we're working because we're at home and we're able to work from home, right? So I don't really buy into that, because I'm the kind of person that wants to work all the time. If I'm not playing with the kids or watching a TV show, I'm happy to be working. I don't mind. It's my brain working, okay? But if you're a office-based worker and you're having to work an extra half an hour a day because you're at home and you're available on a Zoom call, I'd take that trade-off every day of the week over the public transport or the commute. And Ralph, mate, I don't really commute. I've got an office 4 minutes from my house, but I would drive to the Today Show twice a week, and it's a 35-minute drive at 6 a.m. in the morning and 45 minutes back. It was awesome to just drive to my office, but I still found myself coming at the same time. So it didn't save me on the way there. But the thing is, when I would, and again, very unique, but when I would switch off, okay, we're off air, done, press the button, turn the lights off, I'm at my desk and working, as opposed to switching off, grabbing all the stuff, put it in a box, put it in my car, get in the car, 45 minutes, there's another hour lost. I do look at those time savings and go, this is like, that's productive. And whether it's productive or whether it's just me, having more a relaxed approach to the day, either way, it's a beneficial to me mentally, I think.
Let's talk about some of the innovation that we saw during the period. A lot of businesses forced online. I mean, we saw the huge uptake in anyone that was able to create some kind of desk or anything like that.
What about the hand sanitizer creation? These stands are amazing. Who did that?
And then restaurants, high-end restaurants, forced into a takeaway situation pretty much overnight. I mean, what were some of the classic things that you saw, which Aussies are renowned for? It's like out of desperation comes inspiration almost, and to create stuff to survive pretty much.
The idea that a high-end, Michelin star style restaurant could start doing pickup or even delivery it's just crazy. But the innovation there, was them just wanting to keep people working. It wasn't really about making money. Let's be clear. Most businesses weren't making the same money as they were, but it was about staying connected with customers. And I saw great uses of social media, great uses of just websites in general, because a lot of businesses kind of neglect that side of things because they've got a phone number and whatnot. My mum, Ralph, runs a pub in central New South Wales in a little tiny town called Walker Road. Mate, there's only a pub, a police station, and a train station there, but so it's not a big business. But when Mum was forced to kind of shut the doors, I said, "What are you going to do?" And she's on the phone. I drove up straight away. It was just before we were kind of forced into proper lockdown, and I just said, make 4 of your best meals. I'm going to take photos of them. And we built a little online menu. I took photos of them, and we started using social media. And I took these photos of Mum, and we opened the front door of the pub, front window of the pub, Mum reaching out with a bag, as if to hand someone their takeaway. And she still gets stopped in the shops, because what I did, I paid like $50 to boost that post on Facebook to just the local area. And when you're in the middle of nowhere, outside of Tamworth, so you're not hitting that area, you're in the local area, that hits a few hundred people.
Yeah.
That's more than have ever been exposed to mum, ever. And so it's like you're the lady out hanging out the window, or
Everyone in the community sees it, and then obviously word of mouth projects that as well.
spot on. Social media became hyper localized, which I love. And I look, Facebook, has its demons, but that hyper localization allows you to go, I just want to target this area within 25 Ks of this place. I want all the people to see this thing. And, I think a lot of businesses found this just like I did. When you go to a web page or a Facebook page for someone and it pops up the little chat says, can I help you? You can set up these automatic responses. We call them a bot. And I did this for my mum, who's just a Luddite. So she didn't even have a Facebook login to her pub. I just set it up, do you want to see our menu? Do you want to know our open hours? You click these simple buttons and it would automatically send people back the menu. And then next to it would say, if you want to order, click here to call. And they would call. Simple things like that. It might not have been hundreds of dollars, but it was customers and it was engagement. That plus QR codes. I mean, before the governments even started talking about QR codes, there were businesses going, what, you want people to write? I remember I drove to Orange in Bathurst with Fenwick, and we went to a pub in Bathurst and we had to write our name and number and everything in a little book. And just weeks later, they were like, no, it's got to be digital. It's got to be in a spreadsheet. And again, my mum went, nah, we're closing the pub. I'm not typing everyone's details into a spreadsheet. I said, just calm down, give me 10 minutes. And I set up a QR code in like 10 minutes. It's so easy. And if there's the product of 2020, it's the QR code.
Yep.
Because it was created in 1994 for the automotive industry, and it's been sitting there going, why is barcode getting so much love? Boom, we've found the need for the QR code and everyone knows how to do it now. It's awesome.
So if we look at that and then we look at the positive side, what were some of the negatives to get through this period?
Yeah, I think the challenge for most businesses was staying motivated. You have staff who are not working, but still getting paid. And I think that's a real challenge to get people to come back into the business and get working. So there's a motivation thing. There is the potential lack of engagement. If you're not savvy enough to have spent the time and effort on social media, you might not have that engagement. So re-engaging is a challenge. And I think if you didn't have a really solid, family and, clique group of friends, you could very easily become quite lonely in this period. And I think, Gus Wallen's probably a great example of someone who's advocated heavily for that conversation around mental health at this time. And I think the financial challenge, despite the fact the government did amazing things. So I'll give you an example. I got an email from my accountant saying, here's your 3 quarterly BAS or whatever the heck it was that they'd lodged. And there was a decent refund. And I don't normally get refunds. It's normally a quarterly paying out a heap of cash. And I went, oh, that's pretty good. That's going to be helpful. Well, then the ATO, sent a note saying we need to investigate this. And they needed everything, financial records for the whole year, bank statements. And I'm like, oh, this is a pain. But, it was just this concern that we'd done something wrong. But in the end, they were just doing due diligence. They were just checking. It wasn't until the very end when we got an email saying your audit is complete that my accountant even used the word audit. Smart, because I would have lost my mind. But
freaked out.
I think that kind of fear of what's happening, Melbourne happening, I think created a second wave, not just in Melbourne, I feel for everyone that was down there, but of concern. How long is this going to last? Like, how are we going to get out of this? Like, I remember in March and April talking about traveling in December. And I'm not going to travel till December 2021. This is like, we are smashing it here, but America's stuffed. So we're a long way off normality. And I think it's good that we're kind of together as a community thinking of Australia doing well, but we need to spend more and travel more in Australia to make this country stay alive. But yeah, I think the negative was really just that loneliness. And it was good, mate. When Melbourne happened, because we were kind of doing reasonably well in Sydney, and this is not to self-gloat or self-promote, but it was just kind of a story of how people were grateful for those little outreaches. I just said on Twitter, I think I said something like, if you're in Melbourne and you got kids or you just don't have Foxtel or something, send me a note. I'll send you a voucher for Stan. And I got so many, it was overwhelming. And to the point where I bought on the website, you can just buy a gift card. So I'm just every time, same thing over and over again. I got 10 of them, I think it was. And the 11th one, it just rejected me. And I'm like, oh, I haven't run out of money. I checked my card. There's definitely money there. So the system at Stan rejected because it went, there's no one that's buying 11 vouchers. That's just weird. So their fraud system kicked in and went, oh, this can't be right. So I sent 10 of them out, and then Mike Steesme, the boss of Stan, said to me, can we help with that? Didn't want any publicity out of it, just wanted to help. And he sent me vouchers that I could just send. So I sent like 150 people Stan vouchers. And mate, even today I get a little note from them on Twitter saying, you know, we're out now, and it was awesome to watch this show and that show. And I think there was a lot of that really cool community like outreach. And I think we bonded pretty well as a community, as a country over the whole time.
So if we look ahead, and you kind of touched on the fact that ticking over to Jan 1, 2021 may not be all sort of rosy, but what are you looking forward to most next year?
Look, I'll just say straight up, I am looking forward to traveling again. Like, I think I want to get through January before I even think about going domestically. But I just want to get on a plane again because it's a weird itch that needs scratching. I don't think there'll be much international travel next year, if at all. But look, bring on the vaccine, bring on whatever the conversation is around how travel restarts. And I think that if we see the right kind of numbers over the Christmas period in terms of retail and everything, then hopefully everything gets just a bit back to normal. Luckily, I'm not in the travel game, so that I'm not affected directly by the lack of international tourism coming in. But I think as long as the big retailers and tech companies are still getting business, then man, I'm just looking forward to a bit of normality. You know, I've been pretty much normal, you know, podcasts every week, you know, doing the stuff. And nothing much has changed if you look at this week compared to the same week a year ago. It's just that I don't have those interruptions of travel. But yeah, I think I'm looking forward to most seeing Australians support Australia. Like, I want a holiday in Queensland. Let's not get political, but it's just outrageous we can't go there.
Yep.
But I just want to go to Tassie, and hopefully we all go, well, if we're not going to spend 15 grand going to America, let's spend it here. People have got cash. I mean, I feel for anyone that is struggling because they have been out of work, but if that's 10 or 15% of the people, the other 80% are cash up because they've still got a job. They're not spending as much. So we're in a good position broadly to spend that money locally. And I reckon there's going to be a lot of that. Buy local, go local will be the theme of 2021, which theoretically can carry us through much longer period than that again.
Trevor Long, thanks very much for joining us on 2020 Revision.
Cheers, buddy.